Hello there. So, I have never really gotten a chance to talk about Xenoblade Chronicles on this channel. But I gotta say, I love these games. I think they are amazing. And with Xenoblade Chronicles 3 right around the corner, I wanted to do a video related to the series in some way. I settled on an idea that a lot of people have covered, and that is Mythra's character arc from the second game. Due to this topic being covered by various different individuals, I have tried to implement varying topics to differentiate this video from others like it. Before I get into this though, there are two things I would like to address. First of all, if you enjoy my content, be sure to consider subscribing. It helps me out a lot, and this video took me a really long time to make, as you can probably see by the runtime, so it would be especially appreciated here. Second thing, this is a pretty obvious one, but there are major spoilers ahead for Xenoblade Chronicles 2, so if you care about that stuff, I suggest clicking off this video now. If you have already played the game, are not planning to play the game, or you are planning to play the game but do not care for spoilers, you are welcome to stay. Alright, let us get down to business, and let me explain why Mythra is such an amazing character. First off, let us discuss Mythra's personality and how it translates through into both gameplay and her design. Personality is key for writing a good character. This is so the person experiencing the character relates to and gets attached to said character. And like I mentioned before, Xenoblade 2 does this not just through the story, but visually as well. Mythra is a light blade, contrasting her extremely aggressive personality, and we see this light aspect in her design with the primary colors consisting of white and gold. Colors commonly associated with light, while the green and black are meant to tie her design closer to her doppelganger and sister Pyra's. You may also notice her skin is exposed in certain areas, but what you might not realize at first glance is that many of these are supposed to complement Pyra's outfit, as that outfit covers the exposed parts on Mythra's outfit and vice versa. For example, Mythra has long gloves to cover her arms, while Pyra only has short fingerless ones. But Pyra has shoulder pads, while Mythra does not. This is to signify that both are incomplete without the other, and this concept is pushed further with Numa's design completely covered from head to toe in futuristic armor, to signify the fact that she is the complete form and a fusion of the two. Mythra's outfit is also symmetrical, excluding her leg band, contrasting with Pyra's asymmetrical patterns on her outfit, and even something as simple as long hair and short hair, or Mythra's eyes being sharper as opposed to Pyra's round ones, help to contrast the two further through their designs and subtly hint at their personalities in the game. Like I said earlier, Mythra's character is also represented well through gameplay rather than just the story. Something as simple as her character render having one hand on her hip and the other on the end of her sword facing downwards helps to establish her very sassy nature. Her idle stance in the game has a similar stance, albeit without the sword facing downward. If she is standing around for too long, she will sit down, adding to her character more. Her attack animations are also extremely fast and heavy, signifying the hot-headed aspect of her personality, and her sheer power owing to her status as an Aegis furthers this notion. Her skill set is based around crits, similarly to Pyra but with key differences. Mythra increases the damage of crits, while Pyra increases the chance of them occurring. This allows both of them to function differently, while not needing to change your layout when you switch to the other. It also furthers the idea Mythra is much stronger than Pyra, beyond the game just telling you she is. Hell, even the affinity chart shows us her personality through the little pieces of dialogue next to each skill. This design and gameplay highlighting her character traits and contrast to Pyra allows the player to learn about her character even outside of the main story and her character arc. So what is Mythra's character arc? Well, a lot of people are going to say it is a tsundere arc, and while that may be technically true, I feel like that's not giving it as much credit. Mythra's arc is about her role in the Aegis War. In the prequel to Xenoblade Chronicles 2, Torn of the Golden Country, Mythra starts out naive about the world. Due to her only being awakened a year ago at the time, she possesses a very underdeveloped understanding of Allrest, the world of Xenoblade Chronicles 2. She does not understand how drivers would want to side with humans, and lacks agency as shown when she says she does not have a goal beyond her drivers. In a way, she actually is not vastly different from the villain Malos in this aspect of viewing humans as an evil force. However, over the course of the story, she forms bonds with all the party members, causing her to gain admiration for humans, and even learn from her colleagues, such as using Jin and Laura's sword-swapping technique, or telling Bridget that she is not at full strength with her driver. This makes her confrontation with Malos at the end much more satisfying. Not only is it the thing she has been working towards for the entire game, but also the goal she gained throughout the story is also achieved by stopping Malos, and her defeating him is, in a way, her denying her past thoughts about the world. This alone is a fairly good arc, albeit a bit basic, but now that I have explained her role in Torna, it's time to discuss the last few scenes of the prequel. But before we do, let us discuss Blades and their relationship with their drivers. Blades are beings that are awakened when a driver touches their core crystal. They are then bonded with their driver until the driver dies, and the blade returns to their crystal with no memories of their past life, waiting to be awakened again. When blades are awakened for the first time, they take after their drivers that awaken them in a multitude of diverse ways, whether that be motives, appearance, or personality. The biggest example is Malos and Amalthus, with the latter's hatred of the world causing the former to try and destroy it due to this. Other examples include Laura and Hayes looking remarkably similar, almost like twins, and Pandoria's movements being identical to Zeke's. However, I think the most interesting one is Adam's influence on Mythra. Adam confesses to Laura the guilt he feels of controlling someone as powerful as Mythra, and that tons of people could die by his hands if he's not careful. This is important for the next scenes I'm about to talk about, so let us get back to that. Even though it is clear how Torna ends, based on what is told about the events of the Aegis War in Xenoblade Chronicles 2, the ending is still heartbreaking regardless. Due to Malos attacking Oresco, while Milton, basically a younger brother to Mythra, is there, she summons the third Aegis sword and becomes full-on emotionless in order to wield it, to beat Malos. This is another great reaffirmation of her character development, highlighting how she has grown to appreciate humans, that she goes berserk when she is unable to protect them. After the events of the battle, however, her attack on Malos sinks the Torn Titan and kills tons of people in the process, leaving only a refugee ship. After Malos disappears, Mythra looks at what she has done, not only to the people of Torna, but to her own friend Milton. This event completely shatters all self-confidence Mythra has, and causes her to create Pyra out of depression. For the purposes of the length of this already long video, I will not be covering Pyra's character, so to keep it short, Pyra is essentially the opposite of Mythra in every way. The reason why she is that way is that throughout Torna, everyone has been criticizing Mythra's attitude, slowly making her feel less and less wanted, and the death of Milton is the straw that broke the camel's back. She views herself as a burden to the world, and because of this and lack of emotional support, it's finally what leads to Pyra's creation. Pyra is the opposite of Mythra in nearly every way, and this is due to Mythra viewing herself as not needed or wanted by those around her, and that Pyra is her ideal self based on the influence of others and her actions. Everyone jokes about Mythra constantly getting roasted in Torna, but in a way this criticism about her is what tips her over the edge to create Pyra, as she encompasses all the traits Mythra was told she lacked. It is a really good reason as to why the two are complete opposites, and it is also a really good explanation as to why Pyra is so much weaker in comparison, to prevent something similar from happening again. Mythra then seals herself away until the day when someone may be worthy of the Aegis' power again. We do not see Mythra again until right after Vandam's death in the actual base game, since the story focuses on Pyra for the early chapters. The next day at his funeral, Mythra gets mad at Rex for awakening her, stating she did not want to come back. This shows how 500 years of isolation has affected her. She basically becomes suicidal at this point because of her guilt, and would rather lay dormant, never to be seen again, to protect those around her. Not only does this tell the people who did not play Torna what her personality is, it also is very understandable how she is feeling based on the events she went through there. We see a slight moment of softness within her when Rex mentions he wanted to keep her safe, but she immediately switches back to Pyra, relying on her to be the version of herself she thinks the world needs once again. What is really interesting is that Rex's words here are the first words of comfort she has heard since the end of Torna. None of the other party members even tried at the time, and it foreshadows Rex being the one to finally help her overcome this. Before I go any further, I would like to mention my stance on trauma in fictitious stories. I think that it is an extremely easy thing to mess up. However, with the correct elements, it can be great. Two examples of this are Po in Kung Fu Panda 2 and Lloyd in Ninjago Season 11. I will not go over these in too much depth, since similarly to what I mentioned with Pyra earlier, that is not what this video is about, so I will run through them both very briefly. Po's arc is great because once he figures out he is adopted, who his parents are, and most importantly, who he is bothering him so much. It all comes together in the beautiful scene where he achieves inner peace, realizing that he must let his feelings out instead of bottling them up, and that his past does not define him. As for Lloyd, I will let your number 1 Season 11 advocate, Krusty783, take over for this part of the video. Go subscribe to him. He makes good Ninjago videos and his YouTube channel is linked in the description.
What he mainly feared was people lying to him and betraying his trust like Harumi and abusing him like his father, which was manifested in the Ice Emperor and Vex and almost happened with Akita. When he gave Akita crap for what happened, she started giving him crap in response. And when Vex gave the Formlings crap for what happened with them, and what he believed, they gave him crap in response, and made what he thought was happening actually happen, which was what would have happened with Lloyd had he not seen through it and become a better person.
So why am I bringing these up? Well, while these two arcs are great in their own right, in my opinion Mythra's is a step above because of how much it changes her character. While Po and Lloyd are both suffering from trauma, there are still many moments in the story where they feel like themselves, even if the trauma is lying underneath. I cannot say the same for Mythra. When we get back to her 500 years later, she is a lot less overconfident, arrogant, and is more careful when using her powers, and it makes perfect sense. Mythra had not experienced a loss until the Battle of Torna, which completely shattered her self-confidence like I mentioned before. She is still rude, but much more to her allies, particularly Rex, even though Mythra mentions he reminds her of Adam, and the two of them had a relationship of mutual respect, even if they did bicker from time to time. This is intentional. Mythra is acting this way because she is scared that if she does let anyone in, Torna will happen all over again. So she is intentionally being closed off to protect others, once again highlighting the idea of her thinking the world would be better off without her. She is closer to how she acts at the start of Torna as opposed to the end of it, yet it feels completely natural because it is for a different reason that fits within reason for her to act that way. We now come to the Cliffs of Mythra, which, while not the actual climax of the game, is the climax of Mythra's arc and is the climax of Chapter 7. Chapter 7 is my favorite part of the game, and this scene is a big reason as to why. This is the scene where both Pyra and Mythra confess their suicidal thoughts, and Rex gives an inspirational speech to them, now understanding their thoughts and value as individuals. I love this speech because not only does it show Rex's determination, how he has developed down the path that Pyra sent him on, and how he now understands what it means to be Driver and Blade, a realization Mythra came to during her arc in Torna, but it is also the emotional support Mythra never got in Torna. It is no coincidence that the last line in the speech before he asks them to join him is that he will not let the world burn a second time, reaffirming that he will not let what Mythra has been fearing this entire time happen again. Something I noticed is that Mythra does not actually talk when Rex asks them do they love this world in the dream sequence. She just sort of smiles while Pyra says she does. This is a great subtle way of Mythra being ready to move on, but she is not fully recovered from it. In this scene, Pyra and Mythra reach their final form, Numa, symbolizing that their negative thoughts and fears have finally been put to rest. This has been what the entire game has been building towards, and it feels so satisfying to finally get a conclusion here. The second scene I want to cover is the ending. As the world tree is about to collapse, Numa makes the decision to pilot Ion to save everyone, but killing herself in the process. Not only is this an extremely emotional moment, but it also serves as a contrast to Torna's ending, highlighting how she has developed through the course of the story. Rather than her power being used to destroy, here it is used to save people, which displays not only her better control over that power, but also reflects her outlook on herself. Her final speech about how Rex helped her to find meaning in life is amazing as well. Xenoblade 2's main narrative theme within the story is existentialism, or finding purpose in life. There is no secret about that, and this moment is a fantastic way to tie back to that theme. I will also talk about the post-credits scene here. Despite popular opinion, I find it amazing. Not only is the song One Last You amazingly thematic, given the lyrics are not only the thoughts of both Pyra and Mythra, but they tie into their silent mouth movement at the end of the scene. A lot of people take issue with them coming back after this, but I feel if they stayed dead, it would undermine their arc. Having a character overcome suicidal thoughts only to permanently die is ill-fitting in my opinion. Regardless, it's still a great scene to the end of the game. Ever since I completed Torna, the Golden Country, Mythra has been tied with Shulk for my favorite video game character ever. She is a great case study of how trauma and fear can affect someone and make them loathe themselves. How the weight of expectations is an extremely negative thing. And most importantly, how important it is to surround yourself with a good support system that will comfort you in times of need. As someone who went through something similar, seeing this represented in such a respectful way is not only relatable, but also amazingly powerful for people suffering these same issues of guilt, trauma, and suicide. I must commemorate Sky Bennett for playing the character as well. Her performance, especially in Torna, completely sells her character, and is my favorite performance in the game behind Malos. Seeing her get into Smash was genuinely one of the happiest moments of my life, It is not enough that it was one of my favorite games of all time, being wrecked alongside titans like Pokemon and Minecraft, but it was my favorite character in said game to boot. Unfortunately, the inclusion brought with it tons of discourse around the game and character, so I wanted to make this video to express my thoughts on the character. If you have not played Xenoblade Chronicles 2, I highly recommend you do. It is a completely unforgettable experience, and Mythra is a huge part of that.